Capybara Chronicles Sea Adventures Story 10 Secrets of the Ancient Atlantean. The ship Sea Star once again glided over the water's surface, leaving behind the magical light of the moonlit waves. Several days had passed since their last adventure, when they left the dance of the moonlit waves. Time passed peacefully, and the family enjoyed a rare moment of silence. "That was amazing," said Lena, sitting on the edge of the deck. "The moonlit dance was like a dream we will never forget." "Yes, but it left something more in the heart," Bob added thoughtfully, examining the map. "As if now we understand the ocean better." Captain Dad stood at the helm, carefully watching the horizon.
We have gone through so many trials, but each new discovery only strengthens us. Ahead of us lie great mysteries that will help us grasp the hidden power of the ocean.
Soon the horizon was shrouded in mist, and the silhouettes of mysterious ruins began to emerge ahead, stretching deep underwater. The air was filled with a gentle whisper, as if the water itself was telling an ancient story.
"Something about this mist seems familiar," Lena said thoughtfully.
Her eyes sparkled with anticipation.
"It looks like what you were talking about. Captain, when we discussed the sunken cities," the captain slowly nodded.
His gaze remained fixed on the silhouettes of the ruins in the distance.
You're right, Alina!
"This is Atlantis." His voice sounded solemn.
Once it was the greatest city where magic and science thrived. But one day its magic became too strong, and the city sank underwater. Only a few secrets have been preserved, hidden from sight. Tika jumped with excitement.
Will we find these secrets? Maybe there's something there that can help save the ocean, the captain replied.
His tone became serious.
If you are ready for the trials, Ancient Atlantis is protected by magic that tests the sincerity of intentions and the strength of spirit. You must go through them to discover the truth.
The ship approached a place where the water became as clear as glass. A scene unfolded beneath them. Massive ruins covered in corals and seaweed descended into the depths. These were the remnants of giant ships, with arches and columns, adorned with delicate patterns resembling sea waves and stars. On some columns, fragments of ancient signs and symbols remained, which seemed to be trying to tell their story. "Incredible," exclaimed Mama Bara. "It's like the heart of an ancient city, as if still living underwater."
But how do we get there? Asked the god. It's too deep.
The crystal on the helm lit up and the captain's voice explained.
The ship will create a protective dome, just like it did during our dive to the Pearl Reef. It will surround us with an invisible sphere that will provide air and protection. You will be able to descend with it and explore the ruins. But be careful, the magic of Atlantis is alive and will test you. This magic is more complex and ancient than anything we have encountered so far. The ship began to descend, and an underwater world unfolded around.
Fish of all colors and sizes swam between the columns, and the light from the crystal illuminated the dark corners of the ruins. Soon they reached the central square where a giant statue stood, holding a glowing orb in its hands. Could this be the center? Bob speculated, not hiding a slight uncertainty. This is probably a good place to start, but what if there's something here we haven't seen yet? As the family approached the statue, their gazes lingered on its majestic appearance. It was a figure crafted with grace despite the marks of time. The hands held a glowing orb, and the carvings on the stone depicted walls from the history of Atlantis. Fish, stars, and waves intertwined in an intricate pattern. The face of the statue was indistinguishable, but its eyes, hidden in shadow, suddenly glowed, flooding the square with a soft blue light. This light seemed to bring the entire square to life, and then a deep voice, low and enveloping, was heard.
Welcome, traveler. The voice of the statue resounded.
Its tone sounded like an echo from a distant past.
You have come to a sacred place where the secrets of Atlantis are kept. This knowledge is priceless, and not everyone can obtain it. If you wish to uncover it, prove that you possess wisdom. Solve the ancient riddle.
Glowing symbols suddenly appeared on the walls, beginning to form complex patterns.
This looks like a puzzle.
Tika exclaimed.
It seems we need to connect them so that the patterns form a map.
Bob suggested. The family began to work together. Bob, with a serious expression, studied the symbols, comparing them to the outlines on the walls. Alina paid attention to the smallest details that could be clues. Tika, noticing that one of the symbols resembled a starfish, suddenly exclaimed, "What if this is part of the path?" Bob initially wanted to object, but then he pondered.
Maybe you're right. If you combine this with the main pattern, it forms the movement of currents.
By synchronizing their efforts, the family slowly but surely found the right solution. When the last symbol fell into place, the patterns came to life, glowing brightly and pointing the way forward. Tika smiled proudly.
I told you it was important!
Passing through the narrow passage, the family found themselves in a vast hall, whose walls were covered with ancient patterns resembling moving sea waves. Tall columns adorned with glowing crystals rose up to the ceiling, disappearing into the shadows. The light of the crystal reflected on the water's surface, creating the sensation that the hall itself was breathing. The atmosphere was both mesmerizing and unsettling. Suddenly, the water in the center of the hall began to bubble, and a huge water serpent emerged from the depths. Its body shimmered with light as if it were woven from living water, and its eyes shone like two bright stars. The space filled with vibrations as its voice thundered, imbued with ancient power. Uninvited guests in the light of the caves.
It will be like an estate. With it, and with yourself, T-Son.
The family froze, exchanging glances, and Papa Capi stepped forward, firmly holding the helm, as a symbol of their mission.
We have not come to destroy. We seek knowledge to keep the balance of the ocean.
The serpent looked at him intently, then spoke.
Prove it, Umbrella.
Go! Through the viable labyrinth safely. Don't get knocked off.
The labyrinth was a network of moving currents that suddenly changed direction, forcing the ship to constantly maneuver. The currents shimmered with a soft light, as if they themselves were guiding and confusing at once. At the same time, Papa Capi held the wheel tightly, carefully watching every change in the water. But even for him, it was difficult to predict where the next current would lead. "A little more to the right," Bob shouted, peering at the map where the direction of the currents was constantly changing. Lena hurriedly checked the symbols on the walls of the labyrinth, trying to discern patterns. "There's a turn here. Get ready to change course." Wild. Standing at the bow of the ship, he stretched his paws forward and shouted, "I see the light. Keep straight." But suddenly the current changed direction and the ship swayed sharply. The family froze for a moment, fearing they might lose their way. Papa Capi focused, recalling the children's hints, and confidently turned the wheel, bringing the ship back into rhythm. As the last currents began to slow down, the light in the center of the labyrinth became brighter, and the water in front of them parted, revealing a passage. The serpent, who had been watching their trial, silently disappeared, leaving behind a faint glow. A new hall opened up before them, where patterned columns led the way, shimmering with a blue light. The final hall turned out to be a huge dome, adorned with frescoes depicting scenes from the life of ancient Atlantis. On the walls were depicted the city's inhabitants who controlled the water currents and created magical structures. In the center of the hall stood 5 crystals arranged in a circle, each softly shimmering in a different color. The space was filled with a silence that seemed almost tangible. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a voice that sounded with particular solemnity.
In the army. The final test. Both discoveries. With this Atlantis we will be. I cannot see that indeed, for only together can you truly awaken the magic with the bloodlines equal and more.
The Capi family approached closer, carefully standing around the crystals. Each felt how the space around them began to pulse, as if reacting to their presence. Papa Capi, holding a paw on the nearest crystal, gently said, "We will do this together. Hold on to your crystals and focus on our goal." Lena closed her eyes, feeling the warmth from the crystal intertwine with her thoughts of family. Bob remembered how their knowledge helped them overcome difficulties. Tika, excited, placed his paws on the crystal, thinking about how their adventures made them stronger. Mama Bara felt her care, for each of them filled the crystal with a gentle light. As their energies began to intertwine, the crystal shone brighter. The light from them converged in the center of the hall, creating a complex map that floated in the air. An image of ancient history appeared on it, the source of Atlantis magic hidden in the very heart of the ruins. The map led to the heart of the ruins, where a huge crystal was located, powering the magic of the ocean. Capi explained.
This is the core. Atlanta! Its power helps maintain the balance of nature. You have proven yourselves worthy. Take a part of this magic to complete your journey.
The family took a small shard of the crystal, which glowed in their paws. They knew this gift would aid them in the upcoming challenges. The ship began to ascend, leaving the ruins behind. The light from the magical crystal gently shimmered, illuminating their path upward. Before the ruins vanished from sight, the space was filled with the familiar voice of the water serpent.
You have faced the trials of Atlantis with honor and proven your strength. More unity. In wisdom. Indeed, and courage revives magic. The Ministry System. Disclaimer!
The Capi family paused for a moment, gratefully accepting his words. Papa Capi slightly bowed his head, as if in respect.
Thank you. We will do everything to live up to this trust.
As the ship broke through to the surface, they were greeted by the soft rays of the sunset. On the horizon, a glowing spot was visible, the sign, "Next target." The Capi family, encouraged by their successes, gathered on the deck. "We are getting closer to the finale," said Papa Capi, gripping the wheel tighter.
But ahead, even greater mysteries and discoveries await us.
The family stood together, feeling that they had become even stronger, not just as a team, but as a family.